Hi guys, welcome back to another edition of High and Inside. It's Drew Allen, I'm Kevin Bowen, and we're here live from Sembauer Field. It is Wednesday of finals week here at IU. No midweek game for the Hoosiers this week, only two more the rest of the season, as they'll squeeze in three Big Ten series with Northwestern and Michigan State the next 2 weekends here at Sembauer, and then their final regular season series will be at Illinois the week before the Big Ten tournament if IU makes the Big Ten tournament. Drew, let's talk a little bit about the Purdue series. It's been a hell of a 2 weeks for the Hoosiers. 2 weeks ago they were getting top 25 votes. They were a team that was leading the Big Ten and going to challenge for an at-large bid if they didn't win the Big Ten tournament. And now they're a game back of the 6th spot in the Big Ten standings, which the top 6 teams make the conference tournament in Columbus that last weekend in May. Drew, talk about the Purdue series, second straight sweep for the Hoosiers, and just a lot of unforced errors.
Right. I mean, 8 earned runs on total on the weekend against the Hoosiers. Definitely, fielding has struggled, and in addition, they just can't seem to get the runs themselves when they get guys on base. I mean, with the exception of maybe the 14-5 game on Sunday, the Hoosiers have hit pretty much right with Purdue, who is the top hitting team in the Big Ten. They haven't converted those into runs per se. Now, whatever's going wrong, I mean, they don't seem to be worried about it. But I mean, it definitely showed over the weekend. It started all right. 5-4, 12-inning loss to Purdue. I mean, off a walk-off by Sean McHugh, the Boilermakers.
They blew the save. Halstead blew it in the ninth inning. They had a chance to win that.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, it was looking like they were going to close it out in the bottom of the ninth. But yeah, a series of hits and a run got Purdue back in it and went in extras, and they ended up closing it out from there. Following the team over the weekend, it looked like that Friday loss just completely sucked the life out of the team. From there they go on and lose 6-2, and then obviously the 14-5 shellacking in which Purdue scored about 7 runs in the 7th inning. So after Wilson had hit a 2-run homer an inning before to cut the gap to 6-4, they just showed again why they're the top hitting team in the Big Ten.
It seems like those are the guys that are really hitting right now. It's been Wes Wilson, Jared Sabrin, and Dickerson are really the only 3 Hoosiers that are hitting right now, and some of those young guys are struggling a little bit at the plate. Some stats from the 7-game losing streak dating back to Minnesota, who swept the Hoosiers here at Sembauer 2 weeks ago. Then they lost a midweek game to Miami, Ohio, and then being swept by the Boilermakers over the weekend. They've been outscored during that stretch 55-19. They've been out-hit 86-59. 57 runners left on base, which I think is the most glaring stat, and I think something that Skip has definitely talked about. We talked to Kyle Coleman, our SID, prior to this taping, and he talked about, I believe they're hitting around 160 with runners and scoring on second or third base, 13 errors, 15 unearned runs. So of those 55 runs that they've allowed, 15 of those have been unearned run.
Numbers don't lie, right?
No, exactly. And it's just one of those things where how quickly it can change. In the game of baseball, Tracy Smith always says, sometimes it's the beauty of the game, but sometimes that's the beast of the game. And right now for the Hoosiers, he's not worried. We talked to him today at practice, and he's very confident in this team. He talked about how he's going to go with his guys down the stretch, guys that have been there prior. Josh Lyon, all Big Ten player last year, has struggled at times during the year. He says he's going to stick with him. Maybe go with some speed in the outfield. I know a glaring stat, Micah Johnson, who was tearing up the base pass prior to the start of the Big Ten season, has only attempted 1 stolen base during the whole Big Ten, and that's through 5 series now. So I think Tracy Smith's going to stick with his guys down the stretch, and it's going to be interesting to see where he goes with the pitching staff. He talked about it today. Blake Monar's going to be his Friday starter, who's been the Friday starter all year, but then Saturday he's going to change it up. Chad Martin, who really has been that number 2 guy ever since probably Texas A&M Corpus Christi series.
One of the first 3 weekend series before the Big Ten season.
He's been that guy. He's going to move Martin back to the bullpen, give him a righty out of there, and which he did make a solid point today about how Chad has been so good through the first time through the lineup, but then once hitters get the time up, he kind of struggles. So they think bringing Martin out of the bullpen will be solid. That means that Joey will slide into the number 2 role, and the number 3 role will stick with Brian Cordy, who pitched on Friday after they threw Joey Joey came in for Blake last Friday against Purdue, so they couldn't pitch him again on Sunday. So Brian Cordy. So it'll give the Hoosiers 3 lefties, 2 of those freshmen. But again, the big thing that I think gives Tracy Smith hope down the stretch, and right now at this point, it's win the Big Ten tournament. There is no postseason play for the Hoosiers, is pitching depth. And right now the Hoosiers have a lot of it, and I think he trusts that. He said that this year's team is different than last year's team. He really believes this year's team can make a run and win that Big Ten tournament.
Exactly. I mean, they're built for it, regardless of where they stand in the Big Ten, because obviously, you know, as we've gone through this Big Ten schedule, the teams have been bunched as far as conference record. I mean, they're still, despite being 6-9 now and technically in 9th place, they're only a game back from being in that coveted 6th position,
right,
where the cutoff for the tournament is. So I mean, and you know, like I said, if they get in it, they're built for it. This year they have the pitching depth. They have guys that they can bring in. I mean, you know, that'll bode much well for them. And Tracy said exactly, you know, that, you know, he couldn't sit here and tell you that, you know, if this were the shape they were in at this point last year, that, you know, he would feel good about their chances. But yeah, now I think it's a different story because of that pitching depth that's brought in, and I think the 2 guys that are going to start on Saturday and Sunday, Donato and Cordy, are a big part of that.
And I think one thing that he looks at is how quickly they've lost these 2 series, been swept in both series. Again, before the Minnesota series, they hadn't been swept since 2008. It's also the first 7-game losing streak since that year. Is they can quickly win it back. You know, let's say they go out and sweep the Wildcats this weekend, a team who is also 6-9 with IU here at Sembauer. Then they're right back in it. They're probably going to move up to the 4th spot. Then they go up to, the Spartans come here to Sembauer next weekend. If they were to sweep the division-leading Michigan State team, then they could go on and, you know, have a chance to get a bye in the Big Ten tournament. So it can change so quickly in the game of baseball. With 3 Big Ten series left, 9 Big Ten games in all. Kentucky and Louisville are a couple midweek games that the Hoosiers will sandwich in starting next Tuesday when Kentucky comes here to Sembauer. I think it's one of those things where he's not hit the panic button. He made that clear to us today at practice. He trusts his team, he trusts these guys, and he's going to stick with his lineup down the stretch. And the big question I think Drew and I have for this team is, which team are we going to see show up? Is it going to be the team that beat Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Coastal Carolina, and Connecticut in the non-conference, won at Tennessee, won their first 3 Big Ten series? Or is it going to be that team that lost 2 to Miami of Ohio during the year, or has been swept in consecutive weekend series? So we got a lot of questions in the month of May. It's going to be interesting to see how IU fares on the stretch. Can they make the Big Ten tournament, and can they make that run? So for Drew Allen, I'm Kevin Bowen. This kid we graduate on Saturday. Drew will be from IU.
Bittersweet.
Sembauer Field. This has been our last Hide Inside of the year. Thanks for watching, guys, and we hope you enjoyed it.